Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Slam with Martina Barnett. This is episode one. Thank you for joining me. A little bit of backstory about me. I am a lifelong wrestling fan. I watch AEW and WWE primarily. I have been doing live commentary on Twitter for about a year and a half now. SmackDown, Raw, Rampage, Dynamite. I watch it all. I see what's going on. And I love wrestling. I've always been a fan. I grew up during the Attitude Era. So Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, Jericho, Mick Foley, like all of them. I've always been a fan. So I just want to get into this. Has been quite a week in wrestling. It's been a lot going on, quite a lot. So we're going to start with going back to Clash at the Castle. So, what I'm going to do is give a recap of what happened. So, at Clash at the Castle, there was it was held in Cardiff, Wales. This is WWE's first time in the UK in over 30 years. They had Bret Hart there, they had Tyson Fury, they had the UFC champion, they had some other special guests. So it was treated as a big deal. It was held at the Principality Stadium. It was very good. Um, Pardon me, my fall allergies are kind of getting to me. So, as far as titles, okay, so we had the main event was of course Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre for the undisputed Universal Championship. As far as other titles on the line, Liv Morgan defeated Shayna Baszler and retained. We had oh my gosh, it's been so much that's been going on. I'm trying to remember. Sunday feels so far away, or Saturday feels so far away because of everything that's been happening. We had Dominic turn on his father, Rey Mysterio, and Edge, and he has now joined Judgment Day, as we saw on Raw from this past Monday. And of course, the end result, Roman retained with the help of Solo Sokoa. I'm trying to make sure I pronounce it correctly. Solo Sokoa, who is the real life brother of Jimmy and Jey Uso and the son of Rikishi. So he is a true bloodline member. I mentioned that because a lot of people don't realize that the real life bloodline, they call it the bloodline for a reason. It runs deep. Everyone knows about The Rock, but we have Rikishi, Umaga, Yokozuna, Tamina, Nia Jax, the Wild Samoans. Like there is a lot of people in that family. And so I bring that up that you could keep this bloodline going for a long time. And so I was pleased to see Roman win. I got my one held up if you're watching the video. I'm a big Roman fan. I love the bloodline. I love what they're doing. However, I'm not going to lie, I was a little surprised because the video packages that they were running for Roman or for Drew, it was really seeming like he was going to win. They're showing his whole life story, showing how he was there like 10 or 12 years ago, and then he left and he came back, and all that has transpired since he's returned, how his mother passed, and that's why he named his sword that he carries Angela, named after his late mother. Those video packages were quite convincing. I was like, and they're in the UK, like he's from Scotland, much closer to home there than in the States. And it was really seeming like he was going to win. So mentally, I was saying it, I'm prepared either way. If Roman loses, he's had a legendary run. If Drew wins, I'll understand. But bringing Solo Sokoa out, I think was a fine choice. What a call up to the main roster because he was in NXT and now he's on the main roster. Sorry about my mic. I'm getting used to hearing it echo. I have to get used to that. So yeah, now he's in the bloodline. The Usos were not there. Paul Heyman was not there. They are injured, which I don't believe they're injured. I think it's just storyline. But yeah, Roman retained. So fast forward to Raw on Monday. a big surprise, Braun Strowman returned. You'll remember Braun Strowman is also a former champion. He had been gone for about a year. He was on the Indies. He started Control Your Narrative with EC3. He is dating or engaged to Raquel Rodriguez, who is now one half of the new women's tag team champions, her and Aaliyah. So honestly, it wasn't that shocking to me that he came back. I'm like, his woman's on the roster. That makes sense. And then also, it was said that, there were issues, and, with Vince being gone, that pretty much leaves Triple H to make the big decisions now, being in charge. So we're seeing a lot of returns with Karrion Kross and him, and I think we'll see many more as well. So he came back. Dominic is officially a member of Judgment Day now. And yeah, that's about it. Raw was not super duper eventful. The main event was The Miz versus Bobby Lashley in a steel cage for the U.S. Championship. The Miz, it was at one point towards the end, it was kind of looking like he was going to win, but then out comes Dexter Lumis coming from under the ring like a serial killer and spooking The Miz to the point where he loses and Lashley retains. One thing I forgot to mention at Clash of the Castle, to no one's surprise, Austin Theory comes out and tries to redeem his Money in the Bank briefcase. I think I had said this. I think at some point they're going to need to make a rule that you only get one opportunity to cash in your Money in the Bank briefcase, because this is twice now that he has failed to do so. He tried at SummerSlam. He comes out during the Roman and Brock match. He's immediately laid out by Brock, and we don't hear from him again. Fast forward to Clash at the Castle. He comes out during the Roman and Drew match, and he is promptly laid out by Tyson Fury from ringside and not heard from again. I'm like, dude, hang it up. They need to just take it from him. They need to establish that you only get one shot, because he just keeps trying and he's not successful. And how the tide has turned for him, because when Vince was there in the final months of him being there, Austin Theory was getting pushed to the moon. He was the youngest U.S. champion, the youngest Money in the Bank briefcase winner, and now he can't even cash that joker in. So they need to find something else for him to do. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they need to handle that, because it's looking kind of crazy. And like during his promo, he's stumbling over his words. He can't even get his words out. He starts out by saying, yeah, in Cardiff. Like he's stuttering. He's sounding like, that little meme of the little boy who's like, have you ever had a dream that he's like stuttering nonstop. That's what Theory was doing during his promo, until Kevin Owens came and was like, dude, shut up. I was like, someone help him, because this is a hot mess. And so, he's just becoming more annoying than anything. And I know that's just his character. I just want it to be known, because I know I'm new here. When I speak about someone, I'm purely talking about their character. This is not their character, their gimmick, their wrestling persona. So these are probably all fine people in real life. I'm purely talking about their booking. So yeah, that's pretty much happened on Raw. So let's get to AEW, because they pretty much stole the headlines lately. So let's talk about All Out. Okay. So we open the show with a casino ladder match. So as it goes on, regular ladder match, more people coming out, so on and so forth. Okay, we get towards the end. Masked men come out. And when I say masked, I mean head to toe mask, like black mask and clothing head to toe. So we don't know who this is. We see one of these masked men climb the ladder and get down the casino chip, which is what they're trying to get, right? And so the masked man rips off his mask, and it is revealed to be Stokely Hathaway. So you'll think back over the last several weeks, he has been giving his business card to different guys. He gave one to W. Morrissey. He gave one to Colton and Austin the guns, the gun club. And there was no explanation given. He just gives it to them, and then the segment ends. And so, fast forward to now, the other masked men rip off their mask, and we see that it is who he has been giving business cards to. So he's creating a heel stable here. And so the song Sympathy for the Devil starts playing. I'm pretty sure it's the Rolling Stones. Sympathy for the Devil starts playing, and we see another masked man coming down the ramp. Not only masked, but also wearing like a Halloween devil mask. So as a avid wrestling fan, I know this is MJF. You know this is MJF. But we're like, okay, we'll play along. Okay. We know it's MJF. So fast forward, he comes down to the ring, and Stokely hands this person the chip. And so he holds it over his head. So the Joker has now won the casino ladder match. Now, as far as that devil mask, I just wanted to give a little bit about that. You remember during MJF's feud with Punk, he was basically going back to Punk's own Ring of Honor days when he cut the promo, "You stupid old man, the biggest trick that the devil ever played was making people think he didn't exist," and he was real sinister about it. And so fast forward to now, Punk has basically adopted that devil persona, like, I'm the devil. During his feud with Punk, he was calling himself, I'm the devil. Okay, so he's wearing this devil mask, and so he has the chip, and he's mimicking, gesturing like he's going to take the mask off and reveal himself. But of course, he does not. He does the finger like, you're gonna have to wait. We're like, oh shoot, okay. So we know it's MJF, but we just want to see it. Okay, so the next matches come on. The Elite wins the Trios Championships. Wardlow retains. Toni Storm becomes the women's interim champion. Who else do we have? Then, of course, the main event. Oh, I'm sorry. Swerve and Our Glory retained their belts over the Acclaim. This was unpopular with the fans. A lot of people were saying that they should have called an audible, which I feel like I personally feel is disrespectful, because there was no interference. They did win clean, but the crowd was not pleased, even though at the end, Swerve and Keith Lee fist bumped it with the Acclaimed. Keith Lee did, Swerve did not. Well, more on that later. So it was seeming like they made amends. And then we'll fast forward to Wednesday Night Dynamite. I thought it was funny. People were so pissed, but I thought it was funny. The Acclaimed is coming out. Max Caster's about to do his rap, like, yo, and then Swerve's music hits, and boom, he interrupts, and the crowd is so pissed. He interrupts. He doesn't get to do his rap. And it's seeming like Swerve is going heel. And then later you saw on Twitter, because, a lot of the wrestlers keep their storyline going on Twitter, which I love. I'm like, I love it. The whole universe. So Keith Lee tweeted like, oh, I left you alone for 5 minutes and this is what you do, or something to that, along those lines. And then Swerve like quote tweeted it like, ha ha ha, or something like that. So of course we know that they have a history of dissension. We'll get back to that because they showed up at the scrum. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But yeah, they retained. And of course the main event, Punk defeats Mox, to no one's surprise. I don't know why people were surprised about that. I'm like, dude, they were in Chicago. Come on now. Tony Khan is not going to have Punk to lose in Chicago. So Punk wins. Fast forward to the media scrum. This is where it gets very interesting. So for those that don't know, the media scrum is basically the post-show conference. So this is where they have a press conference to discuss what just occurred at the event, pay-per-view premium live event. Okay, so we have Tony Khan, and they're accepting questions from reporters and journalists and such. And CM Punk, bless his heart, here he comes. So first of all, it's a sight to behold because he did not clean up for the match because he got busted open during the match. He's bloody. His hair is all sweaty and a mess. He has a towel on and no shirt. He's looking crazy. And he just starts going off. He was going off about the Elite, the EVPs, the lead is the EVPs. He was going off about Hangman. He was going off about MJF. He was going off about backstage matters. He was cursing. And this is such a sight to behold because he's cursing like a sailor. He's stuffing his face with like muffins and all kinds of snacks and stuff that are there. And Tony Khan is sitting right beside him and just kind of letting it happen. Just kind of he's not really, he looks scared, to be frank with you. If you get a chance, go to YouTube and type in AEW Scrum, and I promise you it'll come right up because it's been all over the place. The Punk was just wilding out. It was very uncharacteristic of him. Now we know that Punk likes to speak his mind. He is no stranger to controversy. He is not shy to speak his mind. But the way he went about it was just noticeably like out of character. Like I said, he's sitting here. Imagine, for those that are listening, a bloody, sweaty, disheveled man stuffing his face with food, cursing like a sailor, and just generally sounding very ornery. And I forgot to mention another person he went off on was Colt Cabana. So he was just letting people have it. He had the smoke for everybody. And like I said, Tony Khan just let it happen. So he was going off. And the fallout from this, okay, so if you watch it, or even just from listening to what I'm saying, you might wonder, well, what did those people he was talking about, what did they do? I'll tell you what they did. So after this show, to literally no one's surprise, there was a fight. Because what happens after someone has been calling you out of your name? You go find them. So the elite consisting of Nick and Matt Jackson, and Kenny Omega. All the details are not 100% clear because there's no video of this. There's only hearsay, honestly, about what really happened. So long story short, they make their way to Punk's dressing room, and that's where all hell breaks loose. There's a physical altercation. Punches are thrown, chairs are thrown, people are bitten, hair is pulled. Like it's a scrap. And the fallout from that has been the elite, as I said, Nick and Mac Jackson, Kenny Omega, they were stripped of their trios titles. CM Punk was stripped of his AEW championship. Suspensions, Pat Buck, Ace Steel, Christopher Daniel, Michael Nakazawa, I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Suspensions all around. The only person who was not suspended that was kind of involved in this was Hangman, because he wasn't physically in the altercation, but he's involved in this circle of chaos. But he was not suspended. So title strip, suspensions. Okay, so this is all transpired since Sunday. It is only Thursday. So as you can see, it's been, the world of wrestling has been like this week. Okay, so let's get to Dynamite. Now we get to Dynamite. Okay, so the show opens with Tony Khan. He gives a statement. Now, as someone who studies psychology, I was a communications major. I have a communications degree. I study body language and psychology. Even if you had that scrum on mute, even if you had where Tony Khan gave his statement on Dynamite on mute and you didn't even hear what was being said, you can look at his body language and tell he is nervous, he is anxious, he is uncomfortable, he looks shook. So he's in the building at Dynamite, which it was held in Buffalo, New York. He's backstage, but you can tell that it's live because you can hear the crowd booing. They put the camera on him, and almost instantly the crowd is very loudly booing. I was like, dang, they are no mercy, like very loudly booing him. And you could tell it rattled him because you can see like his voice is quaking. You can see he's reading from the teleprompter. You can see his eyes following, and he looks so nervous and shook and uncomfortable. And just from looking at his face, it was very buttoned up. Like you could tell that his lawyer, it seemed like the lawyers were in the corner like, you stick to what we told you to say and not another word. He mentioned no names. Literally all he said was, "Hi, I'm Tony Khan. I have been forced to vacate the trios titles and the AEW title, and we're going to have a tournament to determine who the new winners are." Boom, that's it. He no names, didn't say what happened. It was very dry. He gave us nothing. He gave us nervousness and anxiety is what he gave us. Just go back and look. Just go type in like Tony Khan statement, Dynamite, September 7th, and you'll see what I mean. Like he just looked very uncomfortable. So you can tell that there's a lot more to what's going on than what's being said, which I understand. I know they can't tell us everything, but it just speaks to the severity, the gravity of the situation. Like just go look. His body language is the way you look when someone is like telling you like, don't mess up. And so yeah, there's now going to be a tournament to determine who the new AEW champ is going to be. I'm not going to lie, I think that's silly because it's extremely obvious that it's going to be Moxley. I'm like, why are we doing this? The people in the tournament, let's see, it's only like 5 people. It's like Darby Allin, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, Chris Jericho, Danielson, Mox, and I think I'm missing somebody, but it's not that many people. Honestly, I feel like it's pointless. They have set it up that you know it's going to be Moxley. You know it's going to be Moxley versus MJF because he has the casino chip now. And he gave a stunning, let me say, a stunning, amazing promo to open or after Tony Khan talked yesterday on Dynamite. He gave an amazing promo as a face. The crowd loved him. That's the first time I have heard the crowd cheer MJF like that. Like it was an amazing return. Only for Mox to come out and be like, "You're full of," and he immediately is like, "You right, y'all some large," dissing the crowd. You know his whole thing that he does, dissing the crowd. And he's such a good heel, but I will say that promo showed he could actually be a pretty good face because not everyone can do both. Some people are an amazing face, but not a believable heel, and vice versa. But Mox, good Lord, MJF, he showed that he can do both. I was like, wow, that was actually really good. But when he flipped back heel like 2 seconds later, I was like, doggone it, I should have known. I should have known. I should have known. But anyway, we know it's going to come down to Mox versus MJF. I understand that someone mentioned like, okay, they're stalling to get to Arthur Ashe. Okay, I get that. I understand they're buying time, basically. But it still just feels so unnecessary. Like they sure do love their tournaments. I'm like, okay, why do we need to have a tournament when we all know what the outcome is going to be? And personally, I'm not a huge fan of who is in the tournament simply because I feel that at this point, I feel like for a company that is like 3 years old, there should be no repeat champions. You need to give new faces the titles, new people. The people in the tournament, they're great, but they have proven themselves. Why not give people who have never had the title a chance to prove themselves? I have questions. Why is Powerhouse Hobbs not in there? Why is Miro not in there? Why is Wardlow not in there? There's so much talent on that roster that I don't want to see this recycling of champions when it's not necessary. So that's my critique. As I said before, my critiques come from a place of just trying to be logical, and I am very pro talent. I'm like, you got to give the talent a chance to prove themselves. And then as far as the company, like I said earlier, you have to, got to keep some order as well. Like I know there's a fine line to walk, there's nuance, but in terms of like the talent, they're going to really need to put talents on new people. Like for example, they did have Daniel Garcia win the ROH championship. That was good. That's a step in the right direction. New talent, keep it going. Do more of that. I want them to see them do that more often. Good move. Keep it going. Yeah, and as far as SmackDown, that hasn't happened yet because I'm filming this on a Thursday. SmackDown is tomorrow. So in my next show, I will give a recap of the SmackDown from Friday, September 9th. So, yes, I know that's a mouthful. It's a lot. It's been a very emotionally charged week. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of taking sides. A lot of people are like Team Punk or Team Elite. I have said it once, I'll say it again. I am not on payroll yet. If someone wants to put me on the payroll, I am fully open to receive this. But as of now, I don't really take sides because I know things are done in the dark on both sides. So I try not to do that because I know things get done in the dark. However, it does need to be said that as far as Punk and his behavior at the scrum, they're going to need to tighten up on that. But that goes back to what I said before. They're going to have to be a little bit more professional with their public presentation in general because it wasn't only Punk, like also Swerve and Lee were there, and there was a lot of profanity. And I understand these are men, I get it, these are guys, but this isn't the locker room, this is Scrum. And I think they just need to Chris Jericho was there too, but I would just like to see it be a little bit more professional all around. And I don't think that's really an opinion. I think that's a need because the fallout from this has been a lot. You know, you don't want advertisers to start saying, "Hey, is this what we really want to attach our name to?" I don't think it'll get to that point, but as a fan, like I said, I am a fan. I want to see the product grow and evolve. That I want what's best for them. I don't want them to lose their deals and stuff, and then we can't watch or and can't enjoy the product. So my perspective comes from a place of how can we keep your product going and see it grow so we can keep being entertained? Like, this is entertainment. But I know it blurs the lines between entertainment and real life when you start having physical altercations, because those are real people behind the scenes, behind the characters. And I know it's obviously reached a breaking point. But I mentioned this earlier that you can just kind of hear ice cracking that there's something going on when you have Malachi Black. He requested his release. Now, I know his was said to be for mental health reasons. I think he also has some back issues. His release was heavily conditional, though, and it is said that he cannot appear or wrestle on TV for a year, which is crazy to me. A lot of people were talking about, WWE, too many W's. WWE has a 90-day no compete, but a year, my goodness, that's insane. I think that's a little harsh when he already left for mental health reasons. I'm like, geez, like that would be like telling a hairstylist you can't do hair for a year, or a construction worker, you can't do construction for a year. Like, this is his trade, this is his income. His wife is a wrestler too, Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega. Is it Vega? Pretty sure it's Vega. Zelina, I know. Zelina's in WWE. But yeah, that was disappointing because I love Malachi Black. I love the House of Black. I'm a huge fan. I love the heels. Or maybe you don't because this is my first show. I love heels. I'm very pro heel. Pro heel turn, pro heels. I almost always root for the heels, like heel fan all the way, because they're more entertaining to me. I'll talk more about that in another episode. But yes, so he's out. At the conclusion of the show, he blew kisses and waved to the crowd. So that is not storyline. That is official. He is truly gone. Then we have Ruby Soho, who broke her nose. That's also controversial how that happened. I have thoughts on that as well. I think it's kind of messed up that how she broke her nose. If you go back and look at the clips from the moves that led up to that at the hands of Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti, it doesn't look good. If you go look at the clips, it looks a little careless, the way that she was dropped on her head. So she has a nose injury, but I also have to wonder if she doesn't have neck injuries as well, because if you go look at the clip of how she fell on her neck, it looks gnarly. It does not look good. So that's something I'm like, why would they reward him with a place in the championship after doing something, or I'm sorry, a place in the tournament after doing something like that? I thought that was a little interesting. And then you have Thunder Rosa. She is, of course, she relinquished her women's championship, and it is said that she is injured, but then other sources say that she is not truly injured, but instead just backstage heat. Either way, as you can see. And then just a couple weeks ago, we had Eddie Kingston and Sammy Guevara again. He's no stranger to controversy, getting into a physical altercation. And one just has to wonder on the outside looking in, like, this is a lot. This is a lot of backstage issues that we know about. Mind you, that this is what we know about. So, there's probably a whole lot more that we don't know about, and rightfully so. I think, I actually think AEW needs to work on keeping more in the closet. You know, WWE controversially keeps too much in the closet behind closed doors, and then it comes out later, aka what happened with Vince and everything. But then AEW tends to be on the other end of the spectrum, and too much comes out. Like, there's nuance. And I understand, mind you, I understand these are huge billion-dollar corporations led by billionaires. I get it. I know it's every day is not going to be perfect. I know people are going to cut up. I know there's egos. I get that. However, you cannot tell me with a straight face that this is not concerning, that all this is coming out, like I said, in a 2-week frame or something. You're like, what is going on behind closed doors? It's just a lot. It's a lot of people with a lot of grievances. And my unsolicited advice to Tony, I think he needs to address it, because like I said, I like the product. I want to see it. I don't want this to lead to irreparable damage, irreparable harm. They get compared to WCW a lot, but you can't help but to make the comparison that WCW did encounter similar levels of messiness before they went under. I do not think AEW is going under. They're not finished. They're not done, but they do have things they need to work on. And that's not an opinion. That's a fact. Like, come on. There's things they need to work on. However, I think they have the money and the resources to do it. I think it just needs to be addressed for the betterment of everyone, because it does bother me. You have so much young, hungry talent that they're not even getting the chances that they need and deserve to shine when you have all this messiness from leadership. Because the leaders are supposed to be setting an example. You can even take this back to when Cody Rhodes left. All the messiness and the smear campaigns that came out later after he left, that was messy. There's a lot of messiness, and it seems to all be at the top. So there's something to be said for that I think they need to work on it. And I don't think that's criticism. I think that's just a fair opinion that I don't know what needs to happen, but one thing that I think that needs to happen, I said this before, I feel that any company where you have the EVPs, the leadership is also in-ring talent, that's going to be an issue. And clearly that's true. It's not the only reason, but it is a reason, because that's a source of animosity. Because, okay, if you're a leader, or leader, owner, whatever, you're my superior, but you're also my equal because I'm competing with you in the ring, and I may have more experience than you. It's like it blurs the lines, it blurs the chain of command, and it's clearly leading to a lot of hurt feelings and animosity. So I think they need to figure out whatever they need to figure out so that the top leaders are not also in-ring talent. And that was a critique that I had for WWE as well. Remember back in the days when Stephanie McMahon was the women's champion? And it's like, oh, come on. You're the boss's daughter. You should not have a title. I remember when she won it off of Jacqueline. I remember being like, oh, come on. That is so not right. Like, talk about an abuse of power like that. I don't think that's right. And I don't think it's fair. And I know everything is not fair or right, but that's unnecessarily controversial. So that's my 2 cents. Like I said, there's a lot going on, and a lot of it is yet to be resolved because, so Punk, he came back, he won the title. No, he came back, he got injured, he won the title, he got injured, so on Friday Night Rampage, you recall he was saying that he is physically 100%, but his mind was, he's not feeling confident. Enter Ace Steel to hype him up and remind him who he is. And then fast forward to Sunday, he gets injured a different body part because before it was his foot, which is one of the things he talked about at the scrum. He talked about how difficult his recovery was. He has like 16 screws in his foot and how painful and arduous that recovery was. And so there is something to be said, and I think this is a fair criticism. Is it time for CM Punk to step back from in-ring competition? And that hurts me because I like Punk. I think he's a legend. However, what's going on now, like he's getting injury after injury that requires surgery. I'm not talking about a sprained ankle. Like he needs surgery. And this is a different body part because apparently during the match on Sunday with Mox, he went through the ropes and I think he injured his shoulder or his elbow, something on his arm. So this is yet another body part. So I'm like, poor Punk, man. It's just kind of sad to see. Like I said, I keep hitting my mic. Like I said, if you watch the scrum, you can't help but it's just visually such a jarring scene to see a bloody, sweaty man who, in his own words, he literally said, I am old, I am tired, and I'm in pain. His own words, and I quote. So it's like, dang, Punk. Like, I think he just wants, I do think he loves wrestling. I think he is a legend. I think he is such he's so passionate about wrestling that I think he just physically wants to do things that his body is just not letting him do. And that's sad. Because I know he has a huge fan base. And that's what I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. The fans can be very fickle because remember, this is the man who, when I said earlier, like they can cheer and boo back and forth in like 2 seconds. One night he's getting cheered at like he's Superman. Then come now, people are calling for him to be fired and saying he's ruining his legacy and da 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 da. And I say all that to say, I know you can't please everybody, but I do think it is time, my 2 cents. I think Punk is going to have a serious talk with his team, and they need to be real with him. Like, because now he's going to be he's going to be out for like 8 months. It feels very Cody. Lord, can't talk. It feels very Cody Rhodes like of how, he had just made his grand return and then he gets injured in that regard, not in other regards. And I know that's difficult. I understand this is a physical sport. I understand that these wrestlers are putting their bodies on the line every day. I totally get that. And I respect it because I couldn't do it. I respect it. However, there comes a time where you have to say, okay, is this keeping other talent from shining? And in this case, I would say it is because they put the title on him and then he lost it because he was injured. I shouldn't say lost. He had to surrender it. Let me be more specific. He had to, abdicate the title, and then he came back and won it. And then not even 24 hours, he had to abdicate it again. And I'm like, dude, I do feel bad for Moxley because I don't feel like, and I know why. I remember I get why, but it still just feels very hot potato like, and I feel like it's diminishing the, what's the word I want to use? The distinguishment, the elite, the relevance, the importance of the title when it's you have it, you have it, you have it, you have it. It's back and forth, it's back and forth. Same thing with the women's title. Like, okay, Thunder Rosa lost it and now it's on Toni Storm, and and I understand, like I said, I understand people get injured. I totally understand that. But what I personally don't like is the whole interim concept. I feel like it's unnecessary. I don't understand why they feel like they need to stick with that. Just let the new person who wins be the new champ. Stop the interim stuff because it's confusing. I didn't like it all the way back when it was Cody and Sammy Guevara, like, because then you have two belts. I'm like, just let the new person be the champion. No two belts, no interim anything. That person is the champ. Just let them be it. So I think Toni Storm should just be, a lot of Tonys. Toni Storm should just be the champion. But of course, she's going to be defending it until they determine who the new permanent women's champion is going to be. So Yeah, that's pretty much the long and short of what's going on in wrestling right now. I know it's a lot, and there's some things I have not covered. It's hard to get to every single solitary thing. But yes, it's a lot going on. We're going to continue to monitor, as always, to see what's going on, to see some of the things I mentioned, how they continue to turn out, how things pan out. And yeah, that's about it. So this has been The Slam. I'm your host, Martina Barnett. You can follow me on Twitter at Slam Host Martina. I am on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm Slam Host everywhere. Follow me. I am also wanting to have people on my show. So if you are interested in coming on and having a sane, calm, respectful discussion about wrestling, I would love to hear from you. And I say that because you're never going to hear me yelling or cussing or crying. I'm not doing all that. This is entertainment. I love wrestling, but I like to keep it fun. And it's okay to disagree, but I think we just have to keep things civil and respectful because I'm tenderhearted and I have my favorites just like everybody else, but I have to always I'm like keep things in perspective. These are people being paid to do what they're doing and they're playing a role and that is their job just like you have a job. So I try not to get too emotional. And even though we all do it, I try to rein it in. So just want to put that out there. So if you're unhinged, don't come on here. We're going to be peaceful. So that's all for today. This is episode 1 of the Slam. Join me again. I will be coming back. My goal is 2 shows a week. This is my first one. I will be back again soon. Like I said, follow me everywhere to find out when my next show will be airing. Thank you so much. Bye.